and thank you for joining me for Married at First Sight, the USA edition. This is the last few days in paradise. The episode is better known as, quote-unquote, red flags. Now, by what does that mean? Well, it's where the couples find out more similarities and differences that could influence their marriages. Again, it's all over the place. Nobody in direct order. Don't like that. And if they would stop putting that stupid show on, Marrying Millionaire or Marrying Millions, I could get this done a lot quicker. Just saying. Anyway, Married at First Sight, red flags. This is day 5 in paradise. Amelia and Bennett. Amelia has this hat on. It's covered in flowers, okay? And Amelia says marriage has been so good. Bennett wonders what will happen when they aren't in that phase. Amelia asks Bennett about his past relationship. Amelia feels like she can have a deep feeling and know that someone deeply and get to know someone. Bennett says, we can teach each other. Amelia plays a song that she wrote, and he taps his foot along while lying in bed. Christina and Henry. Lord have mercy, this couple showed promise this week. Henry says Christina is impatient at times. Producer asks, is there anything you want, like, more or less from each other? Henry eats, and Christina kind of gets annoyed by this and says, you eating to avoid the question? Henry says no, and Chris says she needs him to take charge in some kind of way, and Henry says, even though we are married, I work at my own pace, and Chris says, I've never experienced this. No aggressor, such a slow pace. He doesn't make a move. Henry says he is guarded, and it's a big deal to him being married. They barely know anything about each other. And Chris says, after all, we're in fairy tale land. It will be different. Henry says, patience. Chris says, working on it. Like I said, they showed true promise this week, which is even more scarier than anybody else. Karen and Miles. Well, here we go. Karen and Miles are up at 8:30 a.m. God bless you both. Karen is getting to know Miles, exploring different areas to notice compatibility. They joke about feeling comfy. Miles talks about his life and jokes about 700 kids. And he says, now for real now, I do have clinical depression. I'm on medication. Karen triggers the information triggers her red flag. And Miles talks about his emotions and his expressions of vulnerability and how he had to let his wife know how he feels. Karen thanks him for sharing and how do you articulate it? She basically wanted to know. And he says when he's moody, he will approach her and say, I'll tell you I'm struggling and let you know. Karen's never dated someone who has battled depression, and now she's married to someone who has it. Well, you're going to express ups and downs in relationships, and I admire Miles for being honest and open and communicating about his depression. And Karen, if you love someone, you love everything about them. So you're going to have to learn to deal. Olivia and Brett. See the look? They are chatting, and then they brush their teeth together. He picks at her about flossing, which was cute and adorable. Olivia says they are kind of pick at each other, and they know they're going to meet Woody and Armani to chat. So we're going to move over here. Where did I find? Okay, I guess we're still going to continue on and just read our notes. Later in the day, they try Mexican crickets. Brett wanted to pass, but Olivia wants them to try, so they do. They chat about work. They whisper about how much each other makes in their ears, and she makes 3 more times the amount than he does. They talk about his cat. She doesn't want money to be stressful or cause situations. Olivia seems a bit concerned most about money at this point, and she wants to travel. She doesn't want to cook. She is concerned that he wants to, quote-unquote, play house. Brett wants to build something long-term. Again, I love this couple for a lot of reasons, but after tonight, I question it. But we're moving on. Armani and Woody. I love these two together. They brush teeth together. Armani says that it's nice to be here, and Armani feels like she's more realistic about checking her feelings. And Woody asks, "Are you still afraid of me?" Armani says, "We are still in paradise. I don't want to have a negative experience." Hopes when they do get home that it's still the same feeling and easiness amongst them. So we see Armani and Woody and Olivia and Brett hanging out. They chat about Woody losing his ring, and Armani says Olivia is sweet and she wants to just make sure that Brett will treat her right. Brett had an Irish goodbye at the bachelor party, and it concerns Armani. Armani says she's skeptical that he will get up and leave Olivia. Woody says, "You sound like us, though," when Brett and Woody are talking about how comfortable it is and easy to get along. And Woody's like, "Yeah, it's smooth sailing. It was a good visit, and I even chuckled at the couples together." So maybe that was a hopeful situation for both of the couples. Okay, back to Amelia and Bennett. They talk about stuff. They would take on trips, and she would like to. They even talk about what would happen in the afterlife after they both pass away. I'm thinking, hello, you just got married. But then again, I'm like, Donna, check yourself, because you know what? Even though you've never made that a big focus of your relationships, maybe I should have after hearing what they said. Anyway, donating her body to science is a good thing, and to talk about what happens when dead. And they take photos, which were beautiful photos. They learn about each other. And Amelia says she likes physical affection. They discuss childhoods, kids, and parenting style. And Bennett says it feels premature to talk about kids, considering they've known each other for only a few days. Again, that part I think comes natural, and if you feel the zing, if you feel like you have a connection, to me, it wasn't more than a few days. You talk about it right away because that's what you want in life. Although a friend of mine today pointed out I'm still without children. Thanks. Back to the notes. Here we go. Armelia says he is so agreeable, and the kids that she thinks he will make a great dad material. Bennett says we are totally flirting, discussing true love, and they just totally belong together. That's the vibe I got. Karen and Miles go to sleep. Seems like Karen likes to sleep a lot. Amelia and Bennett floss together. Real bonding moment. Olivia and Brett face challenges and things they will have to work through. They talk about sexual situation, which I think created some of their drama. Let me explain why. Brett says by date 3 that people should have sex. Brett says, you take what, 7 dates or more you make a guy work. Olivia says no sex right away. You have to have a connection throughout marriage, and don't feel rejected. Just take it slow. If the right moment, try. Just make jokes about sex that she feels like they will navigate through it. Brett says yes, a healthy balance. They joke about his snoring, and she says she moans when she sleeps, and he says you don't hear me complaining, which was kind of cute. Woody and Armani. They do a dune buggy ATV date because Woody wants to see that adventurous side in Armani. And it goes well. She says, Armani says, I hope it goes well. Lord, protect us. Woody says, are you scared? And she's like, yes. Woody says, I gotcha. There's a few screams from Armani here and there, and Woody laughs along the way. Armani says Woody is extremely adventurous, and Armani says she just has to get through it, and Woody says that he wanted to see that adventurous side. Armani says she's going to have to make him rub her back after such a bumpy ride. And day 6 of marriage. It's the last few days before real life begins. Thinking about when they get back home should be what they're thinking about. Henry and Chris go paddleboarding. Here again, they show promise. Lord help me. Henry complains about not feeling well. His knees get close to the rocks. Or not feeling his knees. Sorry, I got that wrong. Not feeling his knees. And he gets close to the rocks during the adventure. Chris does things hog wild and feels great that Henry is so cautious and stable. Henry says it's a brand new experience, and he loses track of Chris, and now he's happy and he's safe once he finds her and that she's not in danger. Henry told Chris that he had fun and wants to go again, to much of everybody's surprise, or would like to try it again sometime. Chris falls in the water. Henry jokes. Yes, he jokes. The man has a sense of humor. Alert the media. About almost being a widow and how he was worried that he didn't have life insurance policy on her. Well, that's kind of a funny joke. It's also worrisome in a way, but I guess that's if you watch too many Lifetime movies on a Saturday and Sunday when they play those murder mystery movies. Okay, moving forward. I told you I'd get very detailed. Back to Olivia and Brent. I love this couple, and I hope to God they make it, but there's just moments. They go to a mini zoo, and then they swim with stingrays. Brett says it's great to make these experiences with his wife, holds her hand underwater, calls her the perfect travel buddy, now talks of reality soon when they get back to mainland. Olivia says, I'm no different than when I'm at home. They talk about getting mad or upset at various situations, and Brett says, I'll take things like a challenge, and Olivia talks about communication. This is a good part for the male species to pay attention, but especially Brett. Anyway, Olivia says once we get in our own groove, we will be fine. They will talk about it daily life. She talks to her friends and the mom. Brett doesn't call anyone, he says, every day. Brett says, I like the idea of us being together between work and being with others. He just feels like there will be no time for us in everyday life. Brett wants to maintain us. Olivia says, yes, but I don't want to sacrifice each other's life. Brett brings up, there will be plenty of time for us. Olivia says, there will be plenty of us time. That is her major red flag. Again, the us time and all that stuff. I tell you, a lot of struggles this week. A lot of struggles. Henry and Christina arrive first at this little dinner party. Then Miles and Karen, they all talk about racing, and Miles is dang sure feeling like he's going to be able to win the race between him and his wife Karen, and Amelia and Bennett is there, and Armani and Woody, and Miles is asking them, well, who would win in a race? And when they all say, well, Karen, of course, and Woody's like, happy wife, happy life, and Armani's like, you got that right, and Miles says, what is happening? So it's kind of a funny, easy get-to-knowing moment for all the couples. Amelia and Bennett, they asked them like a question and answer series between all the couples. Amelia and Bennett says, yeah, we kiss a lot, and a lot of times not much making, and we do not make whoopee. And they all laugh, and they're like, that's an outdated term. And he's like, what? That's what the adults call, going at it. And he, of course, again, laughter. Henry and Chris admit that they don't kiss much, and they do not have whoopee. Miles and Karen says he got a kiss on the cheek, and that is much affection from Karen, because Karen does not give him that much of affection if you watch throughout the shows, and I worry about these two. I really do. Armani and Woody says they kiss, and they talk about fruit to describe their partner. Armani picks a pineapple. Miles picks a guava. Henry says he just doesn't know. Olivia enjoys meeting up with the other couples. And now the girls are breaking off to one side. The boys are breaking off to another side. The girls chat. Armani says he makes me feel beautiful and affectionate. Amelia says Bennett agrees with a lot. Or I guess Amelia says Bennett, yeah, here we go. He makes her feel beautiful and he's quite affectionate. And then Bennett gives her a 10 while he's sitting with the men, and she gives him an 8. He's awesome, amazing, and they're connecting, but she doesn't know what's going to happen the rest of their lives. When she says that, Olivia right away speaks up. She agrees that it's quite scary, and you don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the lives. Woody calls it a 10. Armani says a 9 because she's scared. Olivia says, I agree with Karen. She agrees. Karen says it's a 6 or 7. He seems like perfect now, but how's he really going to be? Miles gives Karen an 8. Amelia says, I think he might be really cool, and says, Bennett says not going to rate the marriage. Olivia says 7. Brett turns around right then and looks at Olivia and even raises his eyebrows and just kind of, So you could tell he's upset by that. Olivia says they made progress at a slow pace, but it's a marriage. Brett says he did overhear it, and it felt like a gut punch. Chris says it's a 5. It's not that bad, but it hasn't felt like sparks, and Henry gives it a 7. Henry says she is pretty. Woody tells him they talk about sex again. I swear to goodness, that's all this episode was about with some of them. Do you think that she likes you? And if she wanted to do that right now, would you? And Henry wants to see how it goes. And, of course, Henry says that they are slow, awkward state. Henry and Christina kind of chat about rating the marriage. Chris asks Brett to rate the marriage. And Chris says he's copping out because he seems sketchy and he doesn't want to do that. Isn't it odd that Christina is calling Brett out for not wanting to rate their marriage? Last week it was Henry looking out for Olivia. Maybe we got these star-crossed couples here. Just saying. Henry and Chris hang with Olivia and Brett. Chris won't let the rating thing go. Brett responds that is a shame. Chris, I need to talk to you, she tells that to Olivia. Henry and Brett go to talk, and Olivia and Chris chat about how things are going. Chris is concerned about Brett. Keep your eyes open, she says. The way he isn't answering question. He says that all the things are all the right things, and doesn't want Olivia hurt. Olivia says, I'm a prove me wrong kind of girl. Chris is looking out for Olivia, and she sees that something is wrong. Bennett and Amelia build a fort to tell scary stories. They are enjoying time together. Amelia talks about leaving magical wonderland to the real world, and Bennett says, home with you. Amelia is incorporating worlds, meeting friends, and how they will operate together. Amelia is asleep while Bennett is still going on and on. He wakes her up once. He's excited to share their new elements of life together. She goes back to sleep. Bennett laughs anyway. See you in the morning. Good night. Woody and Armani. There's a rose petal candle lit trail to the bubble bath. New charm for her bracelet. He's being Mr. Romantic out the wazoo. Woody enjoys being a husband, he tells the camera. And Armani says, I felt like special all day today. Armani asks, what makes you feel special or wanted? Woody describes Armani and how she made him a better man. How wonderful. This couple just has romance going on. They hold each other, then they shower together, they get in their robes and kiss and cuddle in bed, then the lights go out. Olivia and Brett. Here we go again with my couple that's struggling. Well, Olivia says tonight went well. Brett says, yeah. Brett doesn't want to get ready for bed, but now he seems not receptive. And he seems somewhat bothered or upset, but by what, we don't know. Brett says no concerns or big deal. Olivia talks about communication, and Brett just stares at her blankly. Olivia says, I need you to talk to me. Open communication was what she wanted from a relationship from the get-go. That's what she told the experts she wanted. That's what she signed up for. Brett talks about how the questions asked time and time again made him feel frustrated, aggravated. Olivia is frustrated and feels like they started off on a high note. Now they're at a low point. Brett talks about his cat and grass. He talks about her work and hadn't really thought about it, but Brett makes it about it's just a show. So they're doing this whole thing for ratings on a TV show, basically, is what he's thinking. This upsets Olivia, and I understand that. Brett says, you want me to lie? Olivia needs a minute, so she runs away to the bathroom, while Brett just lies there in bed. Day 7 of marriage. Brett says, good morning. Then he hits his knee on the table. Olivia is silent, but Brett apologizes, and he says the rating upset Brett, and he just shut down his lines of communication. Olivia doesn't want to be upset, doesn't want to hold the situation or scenarios against him. Brett says he took it way too seriously. Olivia then says Brett is very sensitive, and talking and working through it is what's going to take both efforts on both parts, although they both give the vacation a 10. Miles is up early. Karen is like, why are you up so early? They have been married a week, Miles reminds her, and hopes when they get back home they fall for each other and grow with each other, and they agree the pace is comfy. Karen wants intimacy happen naturally and when they're both ready. Karen doesn't want it to be like other couples on the show, or when it happens naturally, the emotional connection before the physical connection. Karen says, "Any other questions for me today, Miles?" And Miles just kind of shrugs. I think he was more like, "Sheesh, woman, be bitey early in the morning." Although I'm not an early morning person, I am a grumpy bear in the morning, so I kind of feel you on that. Okay, back to Amelia and Bennett. They're out of toothpaste, so Amelia jokes that they are out of time on the island, which was cute. Olivia didn't want to pack up and leave, but reluctantly does. Amelia packs up. Henry and Chris talk about the vacation, experiencing vacation and moving in together. Armani and Woody were intimate the night before. Armani is more excited about the future, showering together. Woody talks about peeing in the shower. Now, if you remember the last episode, Olivia talked about peeing in the shower. Armani can't believe that he pees in the shower, and Armani is kind of sad about leaving. She's upset about him peeing in the shower, but she's just sad in general. They all say goodbye to Mexico, and next week we're featuring new homes and facing the future, and preachers have a sit-down with the couples. So, who's going to make it and who's not going to make it? I know you always ask me for this advice. Well, Amelia and Bennett, I think they are a safe, solid bet. So we're going to give them a 10, okay? Christina and Henry, you blew it out of the ballpark. The past time I have not been your biggest supporter. So I'm going to go with a 6, okay, on you guys. So that moves us along to Karen and Miles. Now, Karen is just so uptight. I don't know if it's her past is upsetting her that much. At least Miles is trying to be in that experiment, in the growing process, where Karen feels stunted, I feel. So I'm going to give you a 5. That's middle of the road. Olivia and Brett, you guys, I loved you guys from the very get-go out of the gate. But after seeing some of the communication issue, the teaser trailer for next week, where she's crying, they're doing the set down with the preacher, and he kind of gets up, and it doesn't show if he leaves the room, but he gets up. So I'm going to give you guys a 6, and it breaks my heart to give you guys a 6. Armani and Woody, you guys look like a strong bet, so I'm giving you a 10. I think we ran out of couples, so that means we're out of time. Thank you for joining me with another exciting What Happened on Married at First Sight in the US of A. Hope I answered all your questions, and see how close we are on measuring up with the couples.